Malcolm Rivers was a man of simple pleasures: a well-executed spreadsheet, a perfectly brewed cup of coffee, and, most recently, the gleaming obsidian shell of his brand-new Porsche 911. He'd poured years of his life into his career, eschewing frivolous spending for this singular, exquisite indulgence. The car, fresh from the showroom floor, was a monument to his dedication. Its paint, a deep, lustrous black, reflected the sky with an almost liquid quality, a mirror to the world around it. Malcolm took immense pride in its immaculate condition, meticulously washing and waxing it every weekend, transforming his driveway into a shrine of automotive perfection. He found a quiet satisfaction in the ritual, a sense of order and control that permeated his otherwise unassuming life. He wasn't one for loud pronouncements or ostentatious displays. His joy was a private, internal affair, centered on the sheer beauty and engineering marvel of his machine. Yet this very perfection seemed to have ignited a simmering resentment in his otherwise unremarkable neighbor, Karen. From the moment the Porsche had occupied the driveway, Karen had adopted a posture of perpetual disapproval. Her gaze, often sharp and critical, would linger on Malcolm's property, dissecting every polished curve, every speck of dust she imagined might have escaped his meticulous attention. Her complaints, initially whispered to other neighbors, soon found a more direct avenue. The first volley arrived in the form of a concerned knock on Malcolm's door, heralding a fabricated complaint about the excessive noise of his engine. Despite the fact that the Porsche purred with a near-silent sophistication, this was followed by an increased frequency of her dog walks, each one a slow, deliberate procession past his house, her eyes scanning for any perceived infraction, her breath held in anticipation of a justification for her ire. Malcolm, a man who valued peace and quiet, found this constant, subtle antagonism deeply unsettling, a jarring dissonance in his otherwise tranquil existence. He tried to remain polite, offering a brief nod or a strained smile, but Karen's hostility was a palpable force, a shadow cast over his otherwise gratifying ownership of the car of his dreams. The sheer absurdity of her fixation was beginning to wear on him, transforming a source of joy into a low-grade, persistent annoyance that chipped away at his composure. The simmering discontent erupted one sun-drenched Saturday afternoon. Malcolm had just completed his weekly ritual, the Porsche radiating a near-supernatural sheen. He stood back, admiring the flawless finish, the way the sunlight danced across its contours, an almost ethereal glow emanating from the polished metal. It was a moment of pure contentment, a quiet affirmation of his hard work and dedication. Then the voice, sharp and accusatory, sliced through the peaceful atmosphere. Karen, clad in a pristine set of athletic wear and dark sunglasses, stood on the sidewalk, her arms crossed with the imperious air of a monarch addressing a wayward subject. Her pronouncement was delivered with an almost theatrical flourish. "That glare," she declared, her voice amplified by the stillness of the afternoon, "is blinding, my son." He was biking down the street, and it nearly took his eyes out. "It's a public hazard, Malcolm. Need to keep it covered until it's matte." Malcolm blinked, a slow, disbelieving smile spreading across his face. He honestly thought she was joking, perhaps attempting a bizarre form of neighborly banter. The idea that the immaculate finish of his car could be construed as a hazard was to him utterly preposterous. He was about to offer a light-hearted retort, perhaps suggest a pair of sunglasses for her son, when Karen's expression hardened. The smile faltered, replaced by a look of fierce indignation. Without another word, she turned on her heel and marched back into her house, leaving Malcolm standing amidst the shimmering perfection of his car, a bewildered sense of disbelief washing over him. 5 minutes later, the unexpected sight of a patrol car pulling up to his curb sent a ripple of unease through him. He watched, perplexed, as Officer Doug, a man he'd exchanged polite nods with on occasion, emerged from the vehicle, a stern expression on his face and a clipboard in his hand. The officer approached Malcolm with the air of someone about to deliver a crucial and unfavorable verdict. The cheerful afternoon had taken a decidedly surreal turn. "Ow!" And Malcolm couldn't quite fathom the reason behind this sudden official intervention. Officer Doug's approach was chillingly formal. He He stopped a respectable distance from Malcolm, his gaze fixed on the gleaming Porsche. "Mr. Rivers," he began, his voice devoid of any warmth. "I'm here responding to a complaint regarding a public safety hazard, specifically your vehicle." He held up his clipboard, its stark white surface a stark contrast to the vibrant black of the car. The complaint states that the excessive shine is causing a visual disturbance and poses a risk to residents. Doug's pen hovered over a blank form. "I'm going to have to issue you a warning citation." Malcolm felt a wave of stunned disbelief wash over him. A warning citation? For the shine? He struggled to process the information, the absurdity of the situation hitting him with full force. A warning ticket. He managed to stammer out, his voice betraying his incredulity. "For what exactly? For my car being clean?" Doug's expression remained impassive. "It's not about being clean, sir. It's about safety. The glare is considered a hazard." He paused, as if expecting some sort of confession or plea. "You're not in trouble, yet, but this could escalate if the condition persists." Malcolm's mind raced. He'd meticulously maintained his car, adhering to all local ordinances. He'd never received a ticket in his life. To be threatened with escalation over the reflectivity of his paint seemed utterly outlandish. He looked at Doug, then back at his car. The sunlight was indeed strong, but the idea that it constituted a genuine danger was, in his opinion, laughable. He calmly explained that the car was parked in his private driveway, not on a public street. He had no intention of moving it or dulling its finish. He then politely informed Officer Doug that he would be going inside to retrieve some documentation. The officer's response was a curt nod, his gaze remaining fixed on Malcolm with an unreadable expression. The air between them was thick with unspoken tension. A silent battle of wills playing out under the bright, unforgiving sun, all centered on the undeniable, almost offensive, brilliance of a car. As Officer Doug finished his stern pronouncement and began to fill out the warning ticket, a growing sense of unease, mixed with a healthy dose of indignation, settled in Malcolm's gut. The sheer ridiculousness of the situation, a warning. For a car's shine was almost comical, were it not for the official capacity of the officer involved. He politely excused himself, stating his intention to gather some additional information from his home. The moment he stepped inside, the veneer of polite bewilderment cracked, replaced by a steely resolve. He immediately accessed his home security system, pulling up the footage from his doorbell camera and the external cameras strategically placed around his property. What he discovered was not only shocking but also deeply disturbing. The public safety hazard complaint wasn't an isolated incident. Reviewing the past few weeks, Malcolm unearthed a pattern of bizarre and increasingly outlandish accusations leveled against him, all meticulously documented, and more importantly, all filed by Officer Doug himself. 2 weeks prior, Karen had apparently lodged a noise complaint, citing a supposed late-night street race that had kept the neighborhood awake. The irony wasn't lost on Malcolm. He'd been out of state on a business trip at the time, the Porsche safely tucked away in a secure garage. Before that, she'd contacted animal control, claiming his car was somehow scaring her dog. Each of these fabricated reports Malcolm now saw with chilling clarity. Bore Officer Doug's name, his badge number, and, in several instances, his unmistakable handwriting on the official paperwork. The meticulous record-keeping of his home security system had become an accidental repository of Karen and Doug's increasingly desperate attempts to harass him. Armed with this irrefutable evidence, the video footage, the timestamps, and copies of every single complaint filed by Doug, Malcolm knew he couldn't let this stand. He reached for his phone, his fingers flying as he drafted an email to a close friend, a seasoned lawyer who specialized in internal affairs investigations. He attached all the compiled evidence, a comprehensive dossier of the neighborly vendetta. He hit send. The email, a digital gauntlet thrown down against what he now recognized as a blatant abuse of power and a deliberate campaign of harassment cloaked in official sanction. The game, as they say, was most certainly afoot, and Malcolm was prepared to play it to the very end. The aftermath of Malcolm's digital missive unfolded with surprising speed. Within a mere 2 hours of sending the meticulously compiled evidence to his lawyer friend, the wheels of justice, or at least the internal disciplinary procedures of the local police department, began to turn. The gravity of the accusations, coupled with the irrefutable proof of fabricated complaints and potential misconduct, prompted an immediate response. A discreet but firm inquiry was launched, and the department, clearly unimpressed with Officer Doug's extracurricular activities, began to take notice. However, the true bombshell, the detail that truly ignited the firestorm, was yet to be fully uncovered. Malcolm, in his initial review of the security footage, had focused on the doorbell camera and the exterior cameras. He hadn't considered the vehicle's own integrated dash cam, a sophisticated piece of technology that captured everything from his perspective. It turned out that during the entire confrontation with Officer Doug, the Porsche's hidden dash cam had been diligently recording. The audio captured not only Doug's official pronouncements, but also an unguarded off-the-cuff remark that sealed his fate. In a moment of casual indiscretion, Doug had been overheard by the dash cam admitting the true, and far more ignominious reason for his actions. Honestly, the audio clearly stated, Doug's voice laced with a grudging resentment. "Karen just hates seeing people like him, Malcolm, flash that kind of money around. It's that shiny black stuff. It just rubs her the wrong way." Those were his exact words, a candid confession of personal bias and petty jealousy, masquerading as civic duty. This damning piece of evidence, now added to Malcolm's dossier and relayed to his lawyer, transformed a complaint of misuse of authority into a full-blown internal misconduct investigation. The department, faced with audio evidence of an officer acting on personal vendetta and fabricating official reports, had no choice but to act decisively. Officer Doug was immediately placed on administrative leave, his badge and weapon temporarily suspended pending the outcome of the investigation. Meanwhile, the news of Doug's suspension didn't quell Karen's fury. If anything, it seemed to fuel her descent into outright delusion. She began a bizarre one-woman protest, marching up and down the block with a crudely made sign proclaiming Malcolm to be a corrupting influence and a threat to the neighborhood's supposed moral fabric. The fallout from the dashcam recording and the subsequent internal investigation was swift and decisive, bringing the bizarre neighborhood drama to a definitive conclusion. The department, armed with the damning audio evidence of Officer Doug's personal vendetta against Malcolm, and the proof of his systematic abuse of his authority to harass a private citizen, wasted no time. Doug's administrative leave was not a temporary suspension, it was the precursor to his termination. He was officially fired, not just for the specific incident involving Malcolm's Porsche, but for the broader pattern of misconduct, his repeated misuse of department time, resources, and official channels to file dozens of baseless and fabricated complaints against his neighbors, all driven by his wife's petty jealousies and his own underlying resentment. The department, eager to distance itself from such egregious behavior and to demonstrate its commitment to ethical conduct, took a firm stance. Karen, who had been so vocally and aggressively pursuing her grievances, suddenly found herself without her enforcer. Her usual tirades and sidewalk parades ceased abruptly. The source of her boldness and perceived authority had been abruptly severed, leaving her exposed, and, it seemed, entirely silenced. She became a ghost in her own home, her presence on the street vanishing as quickly as it had appeared. The neighborhood collectively breathed a sigh of relief. The period of tension and bizarre accusations had finally ended, leaving behind a palpable sense of quiet satisfaction. As for Malcolm, he emerged from the ordeal not only vindicated, but also invigorated. The incident had, in its own strange way, reaffirmed his commitment to enjoying the fruits of his labor. He decided that the experience warranted a further investment in his passion. Within weeks, he'd acquired a second Porsche, a stunning silver model that gleamed just as brightly as the black one. He installed a more powerful, high-intensity lighting system on his driveway. He then proceeded to park both Porsches outside, side by side, their polished surfaces catching the light with renewed intensity, their mirrors polished to a blinding sheen. It was a silent gleaming, testament to his resilience and a subtle, yet powerful, declaration that he would not be intimidated, and that the pursuit of his passions, the enjoyment of their flawless beauty, would continue brighter and bolder than ever before.